My name is Carter. Welcome back to my channel. I love talking about movies, comics, and superheroes and horror movies. And one of my favorite superheroes of all time is Daredevil, the Marvel Comics character. Daredevil is a character where, like many people, I was introduced to him through the Spider-Man animated series when I was super young. I have very fragmented memories of seeing him in the cel-shaded glory. I can't say cel-shaded. I can never say that word. I have foggy memories of that, but my really big first interaction with Daredevil came from this guy, Charlie Cox's Netflix series that came out in 2014. I was only about 13, 14 years old and saw it was TVMA. I was like, there's no way I can get away with watching this. But somehow I did, and I instantly fell in love from the first 5 minutes of that first episode, and I was hooked. Ever since then, Daredevil has been one of my favorite superheroes and comic book characters of all time, like I mentioned. I have a bunch of Daredevil action figures right back there. I'll put pictures of them on the screen. I have the Daredevil poster. I have a ton of Daredevil comics that I've read over the years. I've been reading the Daredevil monthly series for over 2 years now. I love Daredevil. Yet, I had never seen the 2003 Ben Affleck movie, and I just watched it for the very first time this week, and I really wanted to talk about it. By no means is it a movie that I love, and by no means is it a movie that I despise. It's one of those rare movies where I watched it and I was like, that wasn't very good, but there's a lot that I want to talk about and touch on there. So in this video, I'm going to do a little bit of a retrospective looking back on the 2003 Daredevil post-Marvel Netflix pre-Born Again. We're in this time period where in June of 2024, we've seen set pictures of Charlie Cox suited up as Daredevil coming back in the Netflix series premiering in 2025. It's been 10 years since the series first premiered, and it has been 21 years since that movie first came out. Written and directed by Mark Steven Johnson and starring Ben Affleck, Colin Farrell, Michael Clarke Duncan, Jennifer Garner. It was a movie that has always interested me, and yet for some reason I've never checked it out. I don't know why I never checked it out. It was just something that kind of slipped through the cracks. And so looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine, I was like, I want to watch all the X-Men movies. I have some extra time. I might as well sit down and watch every Marvel movie I have never seen, including movies like Blade Trinity, Daredevil, Elektra, unfortunately, but also revisiting movies like Fan Four Stick and Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. And the first one that I revisited was this one. I bought the director's cut at a secondhand Blu-ray store for $5, which in my eyes was worth the money because I wanted to watch the director's cut. I've heard for years how bad the Daredevil movie is, but that the director's cut makes it a whole different movie. And if you care about it, I will be spoiling the 2003 Daredevil movie heading forward. And first, I'm going to do that by diving into the differences from the director's cut to the theatrical cut. The director's cut adds over 30 minutes of unseen footage, including longer, more elaborate backstories and fight scenes, and also really expanding on the lawyer side of Matt Murdock and some of the detective shenanigans that him and Foggy get up to in the middle of the film. It expands a lot on the man who killed the prostitute, I don't even remember his name, or the man who was framed for killing the prostitute, and how that helps the cops swing to Daredevil's side by the end of the film and help take down Kingpin. That's a lot of what is added. It might not be all of it, but that's the most of it. That's the gist of it. That is what is missing from the theatrical cut. So the theatrical cut starts and it ends. The theatrical cut and the director's cut, by extension, really don't have a second act. And that is what stood out to me the most in my watch of this. Now, obviously, I can't compare it to the Netflix series. The Netflix series is 3 seasons, 39 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, of pure, unadulterated perfection in my eyes. It is my favorite TV series, far and away one of the best TV series I've ever seen in my entire life. And yes, I'm incredibly biased, but as I've been diving more and more into the character of Daredevil these past 10 years, watching this movie just felt bland. And yes, it is a movie that has so much style. It is oozing with style. It has Evanescence songs. It has quick montage close-ups of suit-ups. It has Daredevil and Elektra fighting on a playground for some reason. It's a movie that is dripping with style and ooze and grunge and all of the mid to early 2000s superhero movie tropes. If you watch X-Men, if you watch Ghost Rider, if you watch Catwoman, don't watch Catwoman. Watch any of those. You have seen a lot of Daredevil. A modern complaint against the MCU is that you watch them one, you watch them all, they're all the same. In my eyes, that complaint goes for a lot of the early 2000s superhero movies, but they're just very charming with what they're trying to do that some people write it off. As someone who has never seen the film before, it was very easy for me to not write it off, so I'll probably be a lot harsher than some of you when watching this film. And looking back on it as a retrospective, having all of this knowledge from the Netflix series, I didn't enjoy the film, unfortunately. I think it was very flawed. I think Ben Affleck might be the wrong person to play the man without fear. I think Jennifer Garner's performance as Elektra is really not that great. You're missing massive components of Daredevil's origin story. And although I did think the twist of Kingpin killing Battling Jack Murdock was interesting, it didn't work for me. Although I thought that Matt adopting the devil moniker from his dad was a little cute. I much prefer Battling Jack Murdock and how he adopts the moniker in the Netflix series. The film felt a lot more like Frank Miller's The Man Without Fear miniseries than it did, let's say, Jeff Loeb's Daredevil Yellow or anything like that. It felt grungy, but also like a phony grunge. In my eyes, grungy is not playing Evanescence songs as Daredevil does a CGI jump off a building. That didn't click for me. A lot of this just fell flat on its face, and I just really wanted to talk about it. And while there were some things that I liked, I found a lot of things to be misplaced. For example, the biggest misstep here was just the sidestepping of Matt's Catholic faith. And yeah, I will say sidestepping. I'll double down by saying that a couple scenes within a church and maybe 2 conversations with a priest does not constitute a focus on Matt's Catholicism, which in my eyes might be one of the most unique and interesting things about the character of Daredevil. It's something the Netflix series does perfectly. It focuses and expands on so much of that Catholicism, even in the new monthly ongoing Daredevil series, which I'm not a huge fan of. I do like the aspects of Matt being a priest and Father Matthew. Just the emphasis on his Catholicism is what makes Daredevil so interesting and so engaging as a character. For Spider-Man, what endears him to so many people is that he's just an everyday guy. He struggles with rent. He struggles with paying tuition. With Daredevil, it's that he's a Catholic. He feels this pull to the light, but also has so much darkness and anger inside him and looks at the world as sometimes being unfixable. And for me, that might be the biggest missing link of the 2003 Daredevil film. Well, it does have a lot of problems, like Matt falling in love with Elektra after 2 minutes of screen time. They share a couple scenes, and then she dies, spoiler alert, and Matt's like, "You killed the only 2 people I ever loved." I just did not buy it. The writing in this movie really is not great, unfortunately. As someone who's not extremely strict, I'm not a Daredevil purist. You can make some changes with the source material. You can make some changes with the canon. You don't have to follow his backstory one to one. So looking back on this, there are things that are good. Michael Clarke Duncan's performance, the banter between Foggy and Matt can be entertaining, although I'm not sure if Foggy knows that Matt can see, because there's a lot of weird things, like Matt can just smell people coming into a room, and Foggy's like, "Yeah, all blind people can do that. What are you talking about?" Matt can go upstairs and find his way to Elektra. He's fine. Yeah, blind people can know that chemicals were poured here on the concrete, on the carpet. Oh, gunpowder. Yeah, you can smell it. Sure, dude. I don't know if Foggy just thinks that all blind people just have like an insane sense of smell and hearing, but that was weird. That stood out to me as very, very weird. A lot of things in this movie are just so strange and odd and quirky in so many of the early 2000s superhero movies, and just in that way that they can be. It felt like it was trying to be a mix of Batman Forever and Batman Begins in a way where it wanted to have its cake and eat it too. It wanted to be super grungy, but then also have a fight on the playground. It wanted to adapt iconic panels like Daredevil hugging the cross of a church, and then also having a fight on the playground. It was very hard for me to take a lot of it seriously when the CGI and the effects just haven't aged well at all. And so, unfortunately, when watching this movie, I didn't find myself wowed. And I keep saying that throughout this video. I didn't really enjoy the film. I didn't love the film. I didn't like the film. But it's something that I'm glad that I watched. It's always interesting for me to experience my favorite characters in different dynamics, different story settings, different mediums. I didn't really want to do like a full-scale review of this film because as someone who studies film, someone who loves film, it's very easy to pick it apart. Like I said, the film has no second act. A lot of the character arcs are just not existent. The technical aspects are somewhat decent. It felt like they were really trying to lean hard into that early 2000s style, but just kind of couldn't. The performances are decent, mostly from Michael Clarke Duncan. The story is somewhat convoluted, and a lot of the dialogue can come off as awkward and cringy. I could pretty much dive into what makes this not a very good film, but that's been done to death. It's been out for 21 years. There have been people much smarter than me giving their opinion on this for over 20 years, so I will probably just cut it there. I wanted to look at it from a perspective of someone who is a Daredevil fan, who's up and coming. I've been up and coming Daredevil fan for like 10 years. I can't ever say I'm a Daredevil fan because someone's going to be like, have you read every issue of Frank Miller's run on Daredevil? As for comics, I would also recommend reading Daredevil, The Man Without Fear by Frank Miller, or Daredevil Yellow by Jeff Loeb. I've never been a fan of Daredevil killing. I think it's very important to his character that he's Catholic, that he's tied to Catholicism. If that's something that's interesting you, then please read his series, read his monthly series, read Zdarsky's series, read Bendis's run, Miller's run. There's so many great runs on Daredevil, on The Man Without Fear. Please check him out. And if there's any other movies you'd like me to do a retrospective on, comment them down below. Odds are I will probably be watching them as I look forward to Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm doing all of the X-Men films, all of the Fox films, like the Fantastic Four movies. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.